Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour on this Thursday. Man, we got a lot of things to talk about. We got Jay Powell's going to be talking in a few hours. We're going to have Joe Biden in prime time making the case. Well, let's just make the case for war and making the case for emergency spending. Another $100 billion plus in borrowing is going to be the pitch. We got a 10-year note bumping up on 5%. Are we over? Are we close to over in the bottom? We'll talk about that. We had existing home sales. Wow, man, we got a number I didn't think we'd ever see again. I'll tell you about that as well. But our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. I will say this. I encourage you to go out there today. There's a video clip, Daniel DiMartino Booth. Take a listen. She used to work at the Dallas Federal Reserve. She was Richard Fisher's right-hand lady. She very smart woman. So check it out. She's got a lot of things, I think, that are right on here. But Jason, overnight, the 10-year note got to 4.98. Right now at about 4.95 as we wait for Jay Powell. He's speaking at the Economic Club over there in New York today. But I think the big news will be President Biden tonight making his plea to the country that we need to give more money to Israel, more money to Ukraine. We got to get the war drums going.
That's what it looks like, doesn't it? It looks like they're going to find a way to just print or give more money, just add on to that pile of debt and make the situation we're talking about get worse and worse, which is how are we going to pay back the interest on the debt if they keep doing this, Joe?
Well, and again, news out of China today. It was yesterday. The Chinese selling record amounts of U.S. debt. So when we look at last week, remember last week we kind of had some panic in the bond market. We found out yesterday that the Chinese have stepped up their selling of treasuries. And that makes sense because, and again, most of the countries around the world that hold U.S. debt, and obviously Japan and China, the biggest holders, they need to start spending money. Their economies are hurting. They're introducing stimulus and all of these other things, which means they're going to be selling U.S. debt. At the same time, we've had this huge increase in the amount of U.S. debt. And Jason, we're going to have another increase. The Biden administration, they've already drafted it. They want to spend another $100 billion. Most of it, 90% of it, is for Ukraine, which is one of the reasons, by the way, Speaker of the House, I know I'm getting all over here, Jim Jordan, it got worse yesterday. So he missed it by 20 votes on Tuesday. Yesterday, it went to 22 votes. No Speaker of the House. I think Jordan's dead on arrival. The clock is ticking. We've got less than 30 days before right as McCarthy got out, they prevented a government shutdown for 45 days. We're getting closer to that. There's been talk about having a temporary speaker. I don't know how it would work if we could even get this $100 billion approved without a speaker in the House. But Jason, it's Washington, D.C. They'll make up rules if they want to, right? If they want to spend money, they're going to figure a way to spend money.
I think the temporary speaker idea is just to get that money to Israel and to Ukraine. Right. So I think that's the only reason that they're going to have this so-called temporary rule. But you know what they do, and they put a new law or rule in place that's temporary. It ends up being there forever, doesn't it, Joe?
But I'm going to say, yesterday we had a 20-year auction. They were relieved it wasn't worse That's why we saw the 10-year note spiking. They had the banks, the dealers, they were only having to take down, well, I want to say it was 11 or 12% of the auction. That's still a little high, but a lot better than it was last week. We've got another long-dated auction today, but of course, all eyes are going to be on Jay Powell. Is Jay Powell going to signal another pause, right? So a no rate hike in October, or I'm sorry, November, I think first week of November. I think he'll continue with the higher for longer. I think that's going to stay. But I think if he gives a clue that the Fed isn't going to raise again in November, maybe this will be the time, 5.25. Maybe that'll be the top of the 10-year note if they really are not going to raise rates any longer. But then again, I'm assuming he's going to take the easy way out. He'll hint at another pause, but say they're data dependent and they can always raise rates again. But Jason, right now, I think everybody's focused on war. Everybody's focused in on what Jamie Dimon said. I think Jay Powell, his hands are tied right now, whether he wants to raise rates or not. I don't feel like he thinks that he can. What did Goldman Sachs do in their earnings that may have Jay Powell and the rest of the banks nervous? All of that and so much more coming up. $9510592, Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Thursday. A quick look at the markets. The Dow is down, but it's down 100 points. That's not horrible. The S&P's down 13. The Nasdaq's down 33. As we said, the 10-year note, 495. It's been as high as 498. Crude oil's off a little bit, right at $88. Gold, depending on where you look. I'm going to tell you gold is flat, 1955. London will say gold's up $7, but it's the same price. Gold's 1955. Silver just below $23. And if you're sitting there going, wait a minute, I got to worry about some clown who 3 years ago told us inflation was transitory. I gotta listen to this guy, and somehow he's going to determine how my stock portfolio is going to do. And again, remember, right? All day, all day, all year, for your entire life. Max out your 401k. You got to invest. You got to save money. Invest in the stock market. Invest in the stock market. And now, your whole life, all of your savings hangs in the balance of some guy who literally has been unable to predict anything in this economy, really anything. Matter of fact, he didn't start the ridiculous economic policies, but he was working his way up the Fed. Listen, he was part of the Fed when Ben Bernanke was there. Heck, he was part of the Fed when Greenspan was there. He was part of the discussion of 2% inflation. He was part of quantitative easing, the most ridiculous economic policy of all time. Yeah, you're going to figure that out. You'll figure it out. History will not be kind to quantitative easing, believe me. Interest rates at zero. You got to remember, this is his second term. His whole first term lived at zero. And of course, now, through their brilliance, look at what we're dealing with here. And who knows, if Jay Powell says we're raising rates in November, the Dow is going to get smashed. Maybe you need to have more assets not correlated to Wall Street. You better have that gold and silver. You know that. I keep telling all of you, man, especially if you're close to retirement and you haven't called Joey, what are you doing? The tax man is coming. We can look at what's happening right now. We can't fund all of this debt. It's plain and simple. That's what's happening right now. They're not going to say it like that. Now, they'll put some nice little, we're having some liquidity problems. Well, maybe you need to wake up a little bit. Check out our buddies over at Y Refi. You can get up to 10.25% return. You know what their worst return is? 6.25. It's not bad. Not too shabby. It's not correlated to Wall Street. It could give two you-know-whats about what that clown's going to say at the Economic Club in New York today. How about the clown that's going to talk to us tonight? Right? And say, oh, don't worry, we just need another $100 billion. Of course, what's going to happen? 90 days later, oh, well, we need another $50 billion, and then we need another $80 billion, and then we need another $30 billion, right? It's always another. And now we're having problems paying for it. It's time to get smart here. Not only do you need your money out of the bank, you really need to be careful what you're doing in these equity markets. Check out our friends at Y Refi. I keep telling you about it. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Just call them. I mean, let's just make it simple. 888-Y-REFI-24. You guys know you got to have at least $50,000. You can use an existing IRA. Some of you can use a 401k. But Jason, really creepy things happening. The bank earnings came out, and of course, they wanted to, they were fine. Okay, Jamie Dimon gave a warning, and, everybody's bumping up loan loss provisions and how far down have deposits gone? Goldman Sachs, in their earnings this week, took all of their commercial office bonds, all of them. You know what they did? They cut it 50%. Their whole office bond portfolio, commercial real estate office, and marked it down 50%. Now here's the thing, Goldman doesn't have a lot of that. Well, that's a big problem for a lot of these regional banks, a really big problem. But they weren't done. No. They took the rest of their commercial office space, the rest of their commercial space that isn't office, and marked that down 15%. So, Jason, things are getting worse, not better, especially now you've got interest rates going even higher. Yesterday we told you PIMCO in hotels, which hotels have been saying, we're all full, everything's great. They returned the keys to 20 properties yesterday, and of course Goldman Sachs says, okay, we're done playing around. Let's just start writing this stuff off.
Yeah, and they'll have to raise the interest rates if the inflation comes back. And I like looking at the year-over-year CPI, Joe, the number that a lot of people look at, and just looking at that number. I've been looking at the 2-year, and the numbers start backing off. Last year, the so-called they were getting over the inflation, and then the numbers started backing off for about 6-12 months, right? But the big months are the ones coming up. And I don't see where the year-over-year inflation is going to be a small number the next few months. In fact, I see it to be a growing bigger number. And, I know that you called for a pause for the next Fed meeting, which I think is still possible, but I don't see after that how they don't raise the rates. If it goes to, the CPI goes to 4.5, then goes to 5.5, maybe goes back to 6 in just the next 3 months. The next 3 months, the October, the December, and the January number, which will take us or the October, November, December number, which will take us into January. Those are going to be big ones, Joe, because those were big drop-offs year over year inflation, and they got down to 3, right, Joe? You mentioned this yesterday. It got down to 3, then up to 3.2, then 3.7. And this month, it should have been like 3.5 or 3.3. It should have came down, even if things were staying the same. But it stayed at 3.7 on a month that it should have went down. And I think that's what's been all the war, everything's suddenly happening when this number didn't go lower. I think this number is a lot scarier to everybody in the economic world because the inflation's coming back. And all this money, Joe Biden, money here and money there, and the Speaker of the House and the budget can't be resolved, and we might have a government shutdown. All this just speaks of a lot of inflation. Everybody has to spend more money, and of course, every number you put out there, you have striking going on from unions and job. People need to get paid more money for jobs. Everything is just screaming inflation, Joe. So rates. Maybe in the near term, the Fed will keep the rate the same, maybe, but I don't see anything but rate hikes in the future and next year if the inflation comes in heavy. What can they do, Joe? They can't have hyperinflation, or at least not right now, right?
Well, you know what? Can't they? I don't know. I really don't know.
Right.
When we're sitting here having trouble at our auctions, listen, I think today's going to be another one of those. Rates are high enough here in the 4.9s, 5%, that will sell it. But it had to be that high to do it. That's the scary part. Well, how about these numbers? Existing home sales. I don't even know what to say.
It's crashing.
Sales fell to an annualized rate of 3.5 million. I mean, that's like half. I mean, I below 4 million is saying something. This far below, it's really hard to think of. We've only had one other time this millennial where existing home sales were this low, and it really all had to do with right before quantitative easing first started. Back in, what was it, like 2010, right? That was the low point. We're getting back there again. First-time home buyers, awfully low, which makes sense, right? You're a first-time home buyer. You just don't have the money to put down to buy them. But how much lower can existing home sales get? But this is how broken things are. The median selling price. So I just told you, existing home sales, one of the worst numbers we've seen in a long time. And especially, the economy's good. The actual selling price rose almost 3%. So we've got home sales crashing. By the way, the price, the highest ever for the month of September, $394,300. The average person now, Jason, just to afford now, I don't know where you can get a house for under $400,000 here in Phoenix. It's possible. It's not going to be in the greatest neighborhood, and it's going to be super far out of town, but neither here nor there. Jason, you got to be making well over $100,000 a year just to get into an entry-level home.
That's about it. I mean, unless you have saved up an immense down payment. You got the half down payment. It's all. But yeah, as far as normal house buying, per house purchasing, you had to have a lot of equity to move into another existing home, so that you don't have a lot of financing, because financing is not working very well right now, Joe. It's why existing home sales are crashing. Just the financing being one part. I mean, there's an expense just to moving. And if you don't have that side of money going on, I mean, I was watching somebody talk about buying into a foreclosed home that they're starting to pop up around the country, Joe. And he's like, look, there's some programs are coming out. They're trying to get first-time buyers into homes right now with some 3% down loans, better than an FHA loan. But he's like, look, they have pretty stringent standards because they know that first-time buyers, that if they're going to buy an existing home, which is crashing right now, they have to have money. They have to have money for what if you get a little bit of hail? What if the sewage breaks? All these different things that an inexperienced first-time buyer can't, is not ready for.
I got to repair the roof, right? I got to get the water heater, whatever, the AC. The existing. Listen. I never thought sales could get this low again without a major recession. I could see it this low with the unemployment rate, at 7, 8, 9%. But we had first-time jobless claims. It was actually below 200,000 today. It's mind-boggling. Breaking news. I think this is going to be bullish breaking news for gold and silver here. Jim Jordan is saying that he is going to back a plan to have an interim Speaker of the House. It's going to be Patrick McHenry from North Carolina. We talked about this yesterday. They're saying that they were going to have him be the interim Speaker of the House until January. So basically what I'm telling you folks is get the checkbook out. The government's getting happy here. We're going to spend, spend, spend. And that means more inflation. 9510592 Patriot Radio News Hour. Gold's up 3 now. Here, I think gold's going to have quite another big week here, especially with Jay Powell talking today. I think Jay Powell is going to hint at more pausing, and then Joe Biden saying, hey, we got to go even further into debt for all these wars. And now Jim Jordan saying he will back a temporary Speaker of the House, Patrick McHenry, till January. That also tells me two things. Number one, they're going to spend this money. Number two, they're probably also going to, if nothing else, extend the budget until January as well. So that's my thought anyway with this temporary Speaker of the House. All of those bullish for gold, bullish for silver. The special today, 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles. We got a great opportunity here on 10th ounce Gold Eagles, the world's biggest wholesaler. Texted me this morning saying, Joe, hey, I've got an opportunity. Can you help us? So we're going to save you a bunch of money today. 10th ounce Gold Eagles, 1 through 49, 245, 50 or more at 240. Think about it. Gold's up, gosh, what, $160, $170 in the last 10 days. Take advantage of the pullback here and get in some 10th ounce, the golden dimes. We call them the golden dimes, well, because they're the size of a dime. They're 1/10 of an ounce a piece. Very, when you talk about fractional gold and bartering, this is your barter gold coin. But then we're going to throw some silver on as well. Rolls of silver $50, also on sale today at $225 a roll. So you're saving money all over the board here. All great barterable material. A roll of 20 silver $50 at $225. The 10th ounce Gold Eagles 1 through 49, $245. 50 or more at $240 at 800-951-0592. Just like that, silver's now positive. Gold's now up 1960 and rising. Matter of fact, gold now at the highs of the day. And Jason, I think this opens the door here for government to essentially say, we're going to take the next 90 days and spend like crazy, continuing this spending. Jeff Gundlach was out warning today about the dollar, saying, listen, if Congress doesn't get their act together and we get spending under control, the dollar's going to have a big problem.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And about that gold special, just for a moment, I just think it's for you guys out there that want gold that can't afford the $20 Liberty or the $10 Liberty. the 10th ounce gold eagle is a great way to I've got several customers that just buy one at a time or two at a time. And after a while, it stacks up, Joe. After a while, it seems like a roll of 50 of these could take forever. But plunking them down one at a time, and it's kind of cool because, even though you're paying a higher premium, the smaller the piece of gold, the higher above spot you're going to pay. But when you sell it back, we pay more for fractional than we do for the bigger coins. So we keep that in mind. Yeah, you're paying a higher premium for smaller fractional gold, but we pay more for it on the other side. So keep that in mind. Is if you need to be a smaller stacker, 1, 2, 3 coins at a time, it stacks up fast. So keep buying it. But as far as the government and the budget, Joe, I mean, we know that they what is it? It's going to be January 25 is the next time they have to try to come up with a budget. I forget. I always forget. So
this is for fiscal year 2024, which has already started. Right, so
Correct.
So this is that budget. We also know the debt ceiling.
Debt ceiling, yes.
That's going to be next January. So this January, right, we're going to maybe try to get a Speaker of the House in a budget. Who knows? The following January, it's the debt ceiling again. And the scary part is, how big is this number going to be? It looks like for the second straight quarter in a row, we are going to have debt issuance north of $1 trillion a quarter. I mean, that puts you on a $4 trillion trajectory. Now, obviously, the tax month in April, it wouldn't be that high. But, Jason, I'm telling you right now, I'm getting more and more nervous about how close to $3 trillion in a single year that the deficit's going to be in 2024.
What about $8 trillion or $6 trillion? Because if this is inflation and it's snowballing, and hyperinflation is really just measured on how fast the inflation's gaining. What we're talking about, what I'm seeing with government spending, but with food and energy and everything else also going up fast, the inflation gets rolling like a snowball downhill. We could have next year. There's nothing stopping inflation from going to a $6 trillion deficit or an $8 trillion deficit just next year, Joe. What happens then?
I don't know what's going to happen in the Middle East here, but
Syria. I think we're going to Syria.
One thing is clear with the whole Israel 9/11. You know what we did on our 9/11, right? We ended up in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we were there a long time. To me, this is just me, they're sending the message, and I think Joe Biden's going to deliver this message tonight. This war is going to expand, right? Lebanon, Syria, dare I say Iran. Let's not count out Qatar. Listen, Hamas and all their leadership, they stay in Qatar. This has the potential to be extremely expensive, right? When we talk about, hey, well, here's $100 billion, most of that's for Ukraine. $90 billion of it they want for Ukraine. Who knows what this could lead to? Jason, we can see numbers that quite honestly the world has never seen before, and a lot of people, a lot of real smart people, not me, really smart people are saying, hey, we're doing the math here, and the math doesn't work. I don't know how we're going to be able to sell all of this debt, especially with banks not having the deposits.
Correct. Yeah, and well, we'll see where the wars go, Joe. That expansion of spending on 2 wars, it doesn't really matter how many wars there are. It matters how much spending is going into the wars. Right. And look how fast Ukraine became very unpopular. But Israel seems to be pretty popular. The urgency is there, and I think Syria is where it's going, Joe. We could talk a little bit about it, because it's funny where Russia happens to be. That seems to be where these conflicts or these changes are going on. Like, there are a bunch of Russians in Venezuela, Joe, too. You know that. They're in Syria. Maybe there's a trade getting on here. A little Ukraine for Syria trade getting ready to happen.
We'll see. We'll talk about it all. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. We got Jay Powell coming up here in just, I think 15 minutes. Jay Powell will be speaking at the Economic Club in New York. Any hint of dovishness, probably see higher prices. And then tonight, we get Joe Biden saying, hey, we need to get the war drum money going. And it looks like the Republicans have agreed. And Jim Jordan is going to step aside. They will not have a vote for Jordan any longer. It looks like they're going to go with the interim deal so they can get money spent. And that just means more pressure on these debt markets. Gold's up 4 at 1960. Silver's now just crested higher here, 23.05. The 10th ounce American Gold Eagle on sale right now at $245. You buy 50 or more, $240. And then the rolls of silver, $50, silver pre-1965, silver $50 at $225. And Jason, before we get into maybe what's going to happen here, I just want to highlight these big banks. Man, we're starting to learn a lot. They've been laying off by the thousands. The four big banks, J.P. Morgan, B of A, Citi and Wells, have laid off over 20,000 people this year. Jason, they've closed thousands of branches. These banks are really trying to do what they can to keep costs down, and I think this trend is going to continue. We're going to see a lot less banks and a lot less employees at banks. They're going to make it harder and harder for the citizenry to go to banks. You're going to have to travel further. You're going to get less service, right? They want everybody to get ready. This is another precursor of the bank going by. You don't need banks if everything's digital, right, Jason?
No, yeah. I mean, everyone that's ever used a credit card knows you don't have to go to the bank to use that piece of plastic, right? And so that's 98, 97%, maybe 99%, somewhere in that range of all of our currency already is digital. You know, it's just digits on a screen. Only about 2% or so of our money is actual physical cash. And if you've ever seen people with large amounts of cash, or if you ever had a large amount of cash in your hand, or seen somebody paying out something, it just seems like you go to a bank and there's all this cash going in and cash going out. It seems like there's so much cash out there. But that just shows you how much money there really is floating around in this country when the digital is 97, 98% of it. So you're already using digital cash. How many people listening right now, you let some company do automatic withdrawals from your account? Hey, we're just going to automatically bill you per month. It'll just come out of your account. You won't have to do nothing. Paperless. Go paperless, right? I don't do paperless. I'm still in the old days. I want my bills sent to me, and then I want to physically put a stamp on a letter and send the bill out. But everybody's using digital cash already, Joe. There's so many people are already doing it. The difference is a digital currency, the Fed digital currency, is going to streamline this thing. They'll talk about the conveniences and how it's going to save the monetary system in the future. It's going to be a hero. But all it's going to do is going to put a lot of price controls on things. It's going to control how you spend things, where you spend things. That's why we talk about this so much. You know, but Joe, I think they've conditioned most people in America and other highly developed countries to already spend digital money. They got to get rid of that last 2%. That 2% is a problem for them. That little 2% of cash.
Well, I just got an update here. The European Union says they are now done with the investigative stage and now are moving into what they are calling the preparation phase for a central bank digital currency. They said that the digital euro is on its way, and here you go. It is intended to be used from person to person, at point of sale, in e-commerce, in government transactions, in pretty much all transactions, and they said no digital payment instruments offers all of these features. The digital euro is going to fill the gap, Jason. See? This is so much better than Bitcoin. Everybody's going to take it. You can do it person to person. You can do it, right, at the point of sale, right? If you're at a restaurant, you're at a hotel, you're at the grocery store, right? Listen, you can do it in e-commerce. You're shopping online. You can do it to make your government payments, your mortgage payments. Here it comes. Now, the investigation stage is over. They're now in the preparation stage, and they're putting a date on it. They think the preparation stage will be completed in 2025. So, Jason, we're starting to get some dates now. I think you can put 2025 on the clock as a very tumultuous time because the ECB says, hey, it's going to take us 2 years to get ready, and then we're going to be ready to go.
That's not very far away, is it, Joe? That's pretty close. I mean, that sounds like some real dire things are going to be happening in the next bunch of months, Joe, because they have to bring the digital currency when everybody's going to be begging for it, which is going to be huge, massive economic stress. So I guess they're saying that's going to be between now and less than 2 years from now, Joe.
Yeah, so they're saying they're going to finalize the digital euro rule book, also selecting providers, developing the platform and the infrastructure. It will include testing and experimentation to develop the euro that meets both the euro system's requirements and the user's needs. Yes, and of course, when did they say the user needs? Well, don't worry, we're going to get that privacy thing handled. Sure they are. Patriot Radio News Hour. Get those 10th ounce, get those silver half dollars. Final segment coming up. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour, wrapping up the story. We'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow. Jay Powell's minutes away here. We're going to have Joe Biden making his plea to the country to go further into debt. And then, of course, the Speaker of the House, the Republicans, deciding on a temporary speaker through January, which really opens the door for 90 more days of ridiculous spending. Make sure, by the way, follow us. We're on Patriot Trading Group. We're on YouTube and Rumble, and then we're coming up with the half-empty cup. We got David Weiss joining us on the half-empty cup. The half-empty cup, we're on Rumble only because YouTube would ban us there. Follow us at these places, and you can watch us pretty soon. We're working. We'll be going live on Rumble. We'll have Rumble live, and then YouTube, too, for Patriot. We'll be doing live shows here in the future. But make sure you check that out. In the meantime, those 10th ounce gold eagles, this is the way to be. No doubt in my mind. Look at what the ECB just said. Hey, it's coming. Now, just like here, they're saying two things. One, don't worry, we got your, privacy. We're going to make sure. That's not going to happen. They're going to say it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then two, don't worry about cash. We're not going to do anything about it. And I agree, they won't. You know who is? The banks. You know who is? The grocery stores, the retailers. They'll make it to where there is no more cash. Mark my words on all of that. And today's special is a great barterable special out there for those of you that are like, hey, I want barterable material. Both of these specials are that. The 10th ounce gold eagle, 1 through 49, $245. A roll of 50 or more, $240. And then the roll of 20 silver half dollars at $225. Either one of those is a great way to go. If it was me, I'd get some of both. 800-951-0592. But interesting news, and this is why I said this always happens. War drums are beating, right, and spending money. Oh, we got liquidity problems. Goldman Sachs marking down all of their commercial real estate. And they almost slipped it by me, Jason, where, hey, oh, by the way, 2 years. We're on the clock. We're now in the preparation stage for the digital euro. Believe me, Europe's not moving if they didn't already know we were moving.
Right. Yeah, these central banks absolutely are in communications. They just had one of their big meetings over there, the IMF meeting. The central bank of central banks. So they know what's going on, and I read a whole bunch of stuff that came out of that meeting in the last few days. They know what's happening, Joe. I think they sometimes do a wait and see. I think they're in kind of a wait and see situation, but things like sudden attacks in Israel don't happen at this timing of it unless there's a reason. There's a reason for the timing, Joe. There always is a reason. And I think inflation in America is not going to stop. And that just is, unfortunately for the rest of the world, inflation in America is inflation on everybody. Because no matter how much de-dollarization is going on, all these countries are still using dollars, Joe. And if it becomes more and more expensive to use the dollar, can't imagine what some of these smaller countries, how crushed they're going to be by this. Why war start, right?
That's why wars start. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the half-empty cup.